I love bees. 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 I love bees.
Back in 2004, the idea of experimental viral marketing techniques were a very new, unexplored phenomenon. With the rise of the internet age, you have this new, extremely powerful tool to connect to thousands, even millions of people, and finding creative ways to engage and captivate those people, that was the new challenge. Hello and welcome to Deep Cuts, a show that examines lore, backstories, and theories in video games. If you were a gamer back in 2004, odds are you remember the launch of a little video game called Halo 2. At the time, it was one of the highest grossing releases in the history of entertainment. I was in high school at the time, and the hype, the anticipation for this game was something I have never seen quite on the same level in any other video game before. And it wasn't just contained to the video game community, it was on the news, everyone was talking about it. I remember going to class and some of my teachers brought it up. That was such a foreign concept to me at the time. And little did I know, in the lead up to the release of the game, it was making waves on the internet, on forums and in message boards in ways that I couldn't even imagine. Halo 2 seemed to be at the core of a very strange new alternate reality game. An alternate reality game, or ARG, is an interactive networked narrative that uses the real world as a platform and employs transmedia storytelling to deliver a story that may be altered by players' ideas or actions. In mid-July of 2004, packages containing bottles of honey were sent to various outlets, one of them being Steve Peters, a founder of ARGN.com or ARGNet. The honey was branded Margaret's Honey, but there seemed to be something missing. The front label was clearly incomplete, missing the website URL. Inside, floating in the bottle, cut-out letters, which, when arranged in the proper order, spelled I love bees. Navigating to the URL ilovebees.com took you to the website for Margaret's Honey. But poor Margaret, she seemed to be having some technical difficulties with her website. Though upon closer inspection, it's clearly something much more than just technical difficulties. Strange text appeared on the site and multiple countdown timers. The person running the site didn't know how to fix it either, and had a link on the page that led to her personal blog. Her name was Dana, and she was helping her Aunt Margaret's business by handling the website. Though, with the website in its current state, she was looking for the public for assistance. Before we go any further, I'd like to reiterate that all of this took place back in 2004, 15 years ago, as of this recording. One of the best resources that I could have used when researching this story was a forum over at unfiction.com, where the vast bulk of the conversation at the time was taking place. Sadly, the forums are no longer online, and thousands upon thousands of archived posts and threads have been lost. For kicks, I visited the forums using the Wayback Machine, and you can clearly see a lot of the old threads, though I was unable to click into them. The only snapshot was for the directory and nothing else. Though I feel like I've been able to piece together a lot of what happened thanks to some text timelines that people kept on other sites. I'll leave the links to those in the description. And as for the site itself, I Love Bees, you can still access and explore it. It's still online, and with a bit of URL manipulation can access pretty much everything that was on there. Pretty neat. Back to 2004. Dana's blog had comments enabled, and she seemed quite surprised by all of the support that she was getting. There were people on there that were genuinely trying to help her fix her aunt's website. The ARG sleuths started digging deep into the handful of I Love Bees webpages. Looking at the source code, there appeared to be a handful of very peculiar words and phrases in the keywords. Certain things you'd expect, like honey, bees, Margaret, but then others: infestation, survive, SOS, resist, evade, parasite, strong intrusive inclination. These seemed a little out of place. On July 16, 2004, the film I, Robot was released, as well as a theatrical trailer for Halo 2 that played before the movie, as well as a few others like Spider-Man 2 and King Arthur. This was one of the first glimpses the public had of the game. At the very end of the trailer, while the Xbox logo was on the screen, for a half second the Xbox URL glitched out and changed to ilovebees.com. Up until this point, the honey jars, ilovebees.com, Dana's blog, nothing connected this to Halo. So for the people who are already invested in the I Love Bees mystery, when someone left a comment on Dana's blog saying they found the site through a Halo commercial, no one believed them. But then someone else on the I Love Bees IRC, #beekeepers, claimed to see it as well. That made things more interesting. This is a quote from wonderweasels.org, who went out of their way to go and see iRobot to verify the rumor. Right at the end of the trailer, when the Xbox logo appears, I saw Xbox.com underneath. Nothing strange about that. But then, for a split second, before the trailer faded out, the URL switches to ilovebees.com. I couldn't believe it. I Love Bees on a Halo 2 trailer? This must mean that it is bigger than any of us thought. As I sat through the rest of the movie, I kept thinking, I have to get home to tell everyone, even though they won't believe me. Remember, this was all pre-YouTube, and although internet video did exist at the time, the Halo 2 trailer had 1 week exclusivity at Lowe's movie theaters. And then, the high-res trailer was released online the following Friday, and the I Love Bees fever really kicked in. Halo 2 was one of the most anticipated games in existence. The result was a massive surge of traffic and activity to the Unfiction forums, Beekeeper's IRC, and to Dana's blog. The ARG started getting huge attention, piqued the interest of Halo fans and non-Halo fans alike. Over on the I Love Bees website, people began making new discoveries, and things began to change. The text embedded on the screen would change, the pictures on the site looked corrupted. The site held many secrets. The corrupted images, for instance, when opened with Notepad, had hidden phrases inside, something I was able to recreate myself. Piecing these phrases together formed a story. This was an ongoing theme. The site would update, hidden text would be found, usually in pictures, sometimes as a self-contained story, sometimes as a string that would lead to a hidden URL on the I Love Bees website. There were hidden links on pages, solving puzzles would even unlock audio files. Lots and lots of audio files containing short, random conversations that, later on down the road, would tell a bigger story. As for the site itself, over time people began to figure out that the site was taken over by an AI called Melissa, or the Operator. The peculiar thing, though, is that there seemed to be more than one, and they had personalities. The Operator, Sleeping Princess, the Pious Flea, the Spider. Were they good, malicious? People were still figuring that out. They even seemed to interact with each other. Areas of the site seemed to be controlled by certain AI. The contact page, for instance, had an email which was controlled by the Sleeping Princess, a Hotmail account no less. One of the countdown timers on the site lined up with July 27th, and once that date came around, ilovebees.com was updated with loads of new content. Among those, several pictures of Dana, taken from her webcam. These pictures were all file named killer.jpg. There also seemed to be bits of text around the site with threats against her. Dana, freaked out, understandably, decided to pack it in and be done with the I Love Bees website. It was discovered that the reason for these photos and the threats was due to Dana attempting to delete and reformat parts of the site, which was damaging to the AI. They didn't like that. On August 3rd, individuals who had previously used the contact page received emails from LadyB777 at hotmail.com, which was being controlled by the Sleeping Princess. The Sleeping Princess had a childlike personality, and unlike the other AI, she actually expressed a fondness for Dana and requested that she gets persuaded to come back, and that if she does, the Sleeping Princess will reveal a secret that she discovered. So after being flooded by enough emails, Dana returned to the I Love Bees blog. Remember, there were a number of countdown timers on the I Love Bees website, one to July 27th, and there was also a countdown timer to August 10th, warning that the medium will metastasize. Metastasize basically means to spread. On August 10th, there was a big update to the site, including more stories and dialogue hidden in corrupted photos, new audio wave files, and more interactions between the site's AI. The Sleeping Princess hid haikus, there was a monologue by Melissa, aka the Operator, and some interesting interactions between Spider and the Pious Flea. The Spider seemed to be seeking out the Pious Flea in an attempt to delete it. The Sleeping Princess even referred to it as a game of hide-and-go-seek. This could all get admittedly kind of confusing with the different AI personalities, but at this point in the ARG, people were starting to put things together and kind of figure out the different AI personalities and what they actually were. Melissa was the artificial intelligence that took refuge on the I Love Bees website. Based on monologues, it had a hard time recollecting parts of its past. The Spider was a program designed to repair and restore and remove possible threats to the AI, which is why it was seeking out the Pious Flea. The Pious Flea was a Trojan virus, infecting Melissa. And finally, the Sleeping Princess was referred to by Melissa as a rogue process. The damage to Melissa fragmented her memory. The sleeping princess was a fragment of her childhood, which apparently AIs have. One of the biggest updates to the I Love Bees site on August 10th was on the Fun Stuff page, a list of numbers, what looked like GPS coordinates at a time, a crap ton of them, 210 in total. All of these coordinates corresponded to locations over the United States, plus another timer, this one corresponding to August 24th, and the phrase, "Axons go hot." The general consensus was there needed to be people at those 210 sites on August 24th. 210! That just kind of gives you an idea of how big this ARG actually was. In the lead up to August 24th, the sleeping princess also revealed the secret she had found. She sent this to people via email. It was a story, a fragment of a memory of Melissa. Things really started to take shape as this memory revealed that Melissa used to be an AI on board a ship, likely a spaceship, and also referred to them being at war. August 24th, 2004 was a big day. People flocked to their GPS coordinates to activate the axons. The problem was, people didn't really know what that meant. Some of the earlier first axons actually failed because, they simply didn't know what to do. To quote Wonder Weasels again, the rest of us spread out along the street looking for something. 9:15 came and went, and we just stood in the street looking like idiots. The site also updated on the 24th with a black box saying that it was transmitting, and suggested that authorized personnel check the rendezvous information. The rendezvous information contained specific code words for the GPS coordinates. After some fails, people eventually got it. At the given time, a payphone at the location rang. It was Melissa. The player on the other end needed to answer questions, and they needed to answer correctly. First, she asked for her name, which players would need to answer either Melissa or the operator, and then she would ask for their name, at which point they would need to give the proper code word from the I Love Bees website. If they were successful, they would activate the axon and the site would update. A total of 777 axons needed to go live. By the end of the 24th, 74 of 777 axons were activated. 777! Activating axons would also unlock more audio wave files, again, a lot of them being continuations of stories and a narrative following multiple characters being woven through multiple scattered audio files. It really took dedication to follow the whole story. And the axons and the GPS coordinates, it didn't end on the 24th. It went on for days, it went on for weeks. And the site would update frequently with new times and new GPS coordinates. People across the United States scattered to payphones to activate these axons, to answer questions. The story ended up getting media attention. And the crazy thing is, these phone calls, they weren't automated. The person on the other end of the line interacted with the players. Sometimes they had unique requests that they had to fulfill in order to activate the axon.
What's your name? Kristen. What's your rank? Ensign. I need you to prove to me that you are a real person. I could sing you a song. Sing. Of thee I sing, baby. I want to talk to you about the killer. What can you tell me about her?
I know that her name is Dana, and that she is aware that you are searching for her, and she is in hiding from you.
She's right to hide. I'm still leaning toward eliminating her.
In one now infamous incident, had an axon being located in Florida during a hurricane, and someone was actually waiting at the payphone in the storm, which did end up ringing, and the operator ended up breaking character and told them, "Dude, it's a hurricane, put the phone down." This is how dedicated people were to this ARG. All while this was happening, the site would continue to update with more interactions between the site's AI, and Dana expressed huge gratitude for everyone's help over on the blog. She also kept a brief record of the events that had unfolded to help bring new players of the game up to speed. It even got to the point where certain axons were hidden, and some GPS coordinates even spread to London, England. Near the end of September, it was finally achieved. 777 of 777 axons were activated. Critical threshold achieved. Authorized personnel be ready for Axon Spike Rendezvous. The culmination of these events would eventually lead to a combat training exercise in 4 major cities across the United States. Here, players could get special, early hands-on time with the video game Halo 2. It also served as kind of a big celebration for the community and as a chance for other beekeepers to connect with one another, this time in real life. Obviously, not everyone can make it out to these events, so made available at an additional 27 locations on November 4th were free I Love Bees DVDs. These DVDs contained all of the audio files from the audio drama, the WAV files that were scattered and hidden across the ilovebees.com website. There were dozens and dozens and dozens of these audio files, so having them all compiled in order on these DVDs was actually something quite valuable. It was about 5 hours long in total. Copies of these DVDs have become quite hard to come by these days. And I actually strongly suggest that you guys give this audio drama, this audio story a listen. It really helps paint the clear kind of full picture of what was happening, and it really ties in closely with the I Love Bees ARG. It was very, very interesting, and it's available now in podcast form. But you know, that's neat. It all culminated in this big event to get early hands-on time with Halo 2. But you know, the story with Melissa, the sleeping princess, the pious flea, the spider, what's really going on here? Can we get a translation? In the 26th century, a 6-year-old girl named Yasmin was forcibly entered into the Spartan program. After 8 years of Spartan training, she died during the augmentation process, though her brain was preserved and used to make an AI named Melissa. In the year 2552, Melissa was an onboard ship AI for a vessel named the Apocalypso. While in Covenant space, the ship received a Covenant transmission that infected Melissa with a Trojan virus, which began to corrupt Melissa. This virus was called the Seeker. During slip space travel, Melissa, under the influence of the Seeker, convinced a crew member to unknowingly trigger and activate a Forerunner artifact on the ship, which resulted in an explosion. The explosion split Melissa apart, where a fragment of her landed in 2004 on a website called ilovebees.com. Again, as a result of the accident, result of the explosion, Melissa was fragmented. Part of her, Yasmin, her 6-year-old self, was separated and called herself the Sleeping Princess. Another part of Melissa wasn't sent back in time, but landed in the computer of a guy named Jersey Morelli in New York City 2552. You can hear Jersey's story as one of the narratives being told in the audio drama that was included on the I Love Bees DVD. Back in 2004, the fragmented Melissa and Yasmin, aka the Sleeping Princess, took refuge on a website, ilovebees.com, as well as the repair program Spider and the Trojan virus, the Seeker, which Yasmin nicknamed the Pious Flea. Thanks to the help of the ARG participants, Melissa and Yasmin were able to recover fragments of their memory, and they were able to recompile their former selves. They merged back together. They were also able to return to their own time, with the assistance of a newly assembled crew, her future 2552 fragmented self put together. Remaining on the I Love Bees site was the Spider and the Seeker. No longer able to hide itself, the Spider quickly eradicated the Seeker, the Pious Flea. The Spider is now the only one remaining, and it lies in wait, waiting 500 years on the I Love Bees server until 2552. It's still waiting there now. Back in 2552, Melissa is now fully restored, and back in her own time. The I Love Bees story ends with a key plot point from the Halo 2 video game. The Covenant invading Earth.
Ivan? Oh my god. What is that?
Oh god. I've got to get home.
It's a Covenant capital ship. Those little sparkles of light are Seraph fighters.
They're here.
And I was shipwrecked on it. I split. And part of me washed up hundreds of years ago. A half-mad fragment of what I had been, trapped on primitive hardware, little better than an abacus. The place I landed in was covered with bees crawling over me all the time.
Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Deep Cuts. I had a ton of fun making it. It was also a big challenge, not a whole lot of resources out there on this topic, so I definitely had to do some digging. So I hope you guys found it interesting. I definitely felt like I needed to make this video. I owe it to Halo 2. It was such an influential and impactful game for me. I sunk many, many hours into that game when I was a teenager, so definitely wanted to make this video. Please hit that like button if you did enjoy this video. Thanks again so much for watching. Peace out.